Welcome to Alliance on the Move. This is our Burmese edition, and we are so privileged on a historic day to be joined by Mr. Kemrat Ramjattan, the leader of the Alliance for Change, and none other than Councillor of Region 4, Mr. Arnold Sukhraj. Welcome, folks.
Thank you very much, Sherrod, and glad to be here again. We might be joined a little later by Basdeo. I don't know if he's having problems with his connections.
Councillor Basdeo, who's from Region 6. Councillor.
That's correct.
Great. We're looking forward to be joined by Basdeo. Folks, it's a historic day by any measure. We had a protracted election period in the U.S. They have just elected by the will of the people Mr. Joseph Biden and Kamala, her surname is, I don't even know for some reason, Harris. As the vice president-elect, folks. What are your thoughts on this very historic U.S. elections?
I am so happy. I am extraordinarily happy that there has been a change there from the Trump administration. As you know, we have here in Guyana been having a broadside from that administration. The Trump, not necessarily only because of what happened in March 2nd here.
Well, we are going to come to that.
Yeah, we're going to come to that.
Definitely come to that, yeah.
But long before that, the manner of statesmanship that he was providing, and not only to Guyana, but the world and the Caribbean and all the various regions. And as a student of politics, you could have seen that the liberal democratic tradition of America was certainly being eroded and subverted by Donald Trump. And I am so happy that a man that has been there with the massive experience, being a vice president for 2 terms under Obama, a senator for very many years, since he was a 25-year-old, has become today, with all the challenges he has faced. There are lots of personal challenges. His wife and a daughter died earlier on in a car accident. His son died in cancer, and so many challenges. And he pulled it off. And then to see his vice president, Kamala Harris, mixed Jamaican father, his Indian mother, and then she now working her way up through the district attorney, being a prosecutor in some state there, and then, of course, rising to be now the vice president. It's a wonderful combination. And during the course of the campaign in that American elections, I was paying keen attention, and I'm delighted to see that today they have been announced the winners by over 4.5 million votes. And there you have Trump and all his other cohorts, and I'm certain Pompeo and all of them, they're saying that how you got to go to court and this and that and whatever. Well, fine, they could go to court. That is always a good thing, the access to justice. But I'm very, very happy to see Mr. Biden and Kamala Harris as the #1 and #2 American citizens now. Congratulations.
Excellent. Arnold?
Like Mr. Ramjattan said, happy to see a return to democracy in the U.S. As we all know, in the last 5 years, the type of leadership that was given out under the Trump administration, not only to the citizens of the U.S., but to the world, is similar to what we see here with the PPP, the high-handed manner in which they operate, in which they dictate and they don't decentralize and all these things. So it's good to see the change. As we know from history, the Democrats are more favorable to not only Guyanese, but the Caribbean as a whole, in how they operate, in how they execute in governance. So it's good to see them turn. And like Mr. Ramjattan said, the experience that comes with, Joe Biden there, being a long-time senator, being a two-term vice president, and now the president. And then we have, Ms. Harris, the vice president, for the first time, a female vice president in the U.S., um, who is of mixed ethnicity, Indian and the African and so on. And so it's good to see that combination. And I'm eager to see the rollout of their administration and the type of leadership they're going to provide to the Caribbean and to the world. But I'm certain it's going to be something good that we can look forward to.
Awesome, awesome. Guys, this has been many hours since the U.S. News media, pundits, commentators, all credible, called this election. I think the states that took them over the 270 line was Pennsylvania and Nevada. These many hours later, we have not had any congratulatory remarks out of the U.S. Embassy here in Guyana, which is very, very strange. In comparison, when the fraudulent government of Irfan Ali, or some people call him Infant Ali, came to power locally, within a matter of hours, 2 hours the most, the U.S. Embassy was ready to congratulate Mr. Ali and his cohorts. It's been more than, I think, 7 hours now since the world has been sending congratulatory messages to the president-elect of the United States and his vice president. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's very strange, and it's very strange that the U.S. Embassy locally here have not put out any statement on it. And it's further strange that the current government of Guyana has not put out a congratulatory statement as well. I mean, just recently I was looking, Prime Minister Gaston Brong has offered congratulatory message. A few other prime ministers in the Caribbean did. And it's strange to see that the government
Prime Minister Rowley from Trinidad also.
Yes, it's very strange to see that the government of Guyana, who they so heavily depended on the U.S., to put them into power. And now you have an election, you have an elected president, and nothing from the administration hours after.
Incredible.
Yeah, well, that is, it is not a surprise to me because I know for a fact a number of leading PPP members, and a whole host of the PPP membership, especially those that are on those chat lines, have all been indicating that it will be a Trump win. As a matter of fact, in some of the chat lines, you're seeing some of them are saying that Biden up to now hasn't won, that they got to wait in the courts. And that is surprising coming from, people of PPP ilk. But it doesn't surprise me at all. But you will ultimately get it because I rather suspect that good sense will prevail on the PPP's administration. Of course, the APNU AFC has already, via the opposition leader, come out with a congratulatory statement indicating congratulations to Biden and Kamala Harris. But we might very well see it tomorrow that Irfan Ali and his boss, Mr. Jagdeo, coming out. Apparently, they want to await the court proceedings because, of course, Donald Trump and Pompeo might be watching them. So they don't want to come out with congratulations until such time because they probably still have some element of hope. But to each his own, and if they want to wait, well, no problem. But I rather suspect that they are going to do it probably tomorrow as the mountain of congratulations come on. But we know why that they are going to be late. But it is better late than never, as I would like to say. You there, Sherrod? Tonight we have quite a number of things that we wanted to speak on. I don't know if Sharad is just gone, but or disconnected. But there were lots of things that we have. Recent developments have seen Guyana again
Apologies for
becoming.
that. Apologies for that, sir. Just before we go on, I just wanted to stay on this topic for a little while longer. Some
Go
of
there.
the charges that Mr. Trump brought and wanted credibility on seems to be identical in nature to what APNU would have said happened in our elections. The only difference is that we have the evidence, we have the proof. He spoke about dead people voting, about valid votes only being counted, and a number of other issues. Right? While
Yeah,
again, as
yeah.
you rightly said a while ago, they didn't seem to like the fact that we had a recourse to the courts. And now he's bringing all of these lawsuits. It's quite strange. What are your thoughts?
Well, it is hypocrisy to the hilt. Hypocrisy to the hilt, especially coming from the greatest democracy. Well, it is in
Bastion.
my view, yeah, that's right. It's still my view that America has this self-remedial project of, via another elections, kicking out those autocrats and arrogant people who are hypocrites like the Donald Trumps of the day. So that is what has happened here. And I think now that indeed all that they were talking about and trying to pontificate onto Guyana via the Trump administration, they themselves now find themselves in a corner and are giving, at least we have the evidence of about 108 people who are dead that voted. We have 4,000 people who are
Yes.
overseas in America and Canada who voted. And we are going to bring that out in our elections petition. But here it is that you got Trump talking all kinds of things, and they got all the most sophisticated computers and the software and all of that, that the correctness, make the corrections necessarily. And he's still making claims to still be there with that kind of leadership. But of course, I must tell you this, all of that goes to show that sometimes, as sovereign nations, we mustn't allow others to just pontificate. We must allow what is called freedom of expression as to them stating what their positions are, but ultimately it being our own sovereign laws, sovereign regulations, sovereign institutions governing our elections here in Guyana. And we are all going to come out of it good. And Americans, too, are going to come out of it good now that they've gotten rid of Trump.
Just before Arnold comes in there, I wanted to point out some of the other things that Trump would have mentioned. Trump talks about duplicate registration, means that one person voting more than one or registered in different places to vote. He spoke about more registered voters than eligible voters in various areas. And again, about dead people voting, he also mentioned in one instance somebody voted who was born in 1823. Incredible. Your thoughts, Erlo?
Sherrod, when you look at the entire election series of the U.S., even just before the election start, you see Trump was using the same playbook as happened in Guyana. He started with the fraud. Even before the election started, he started saying, well, look, there's fraud going to happen in the election and all these things. Then during the course, you hear that people voting, similar to Guyana, you hear more people, I think it was in Nevada, I think it was, where more people was on the list than actually persons to vote. And everything was similar to Guyana. So it seems Mercury probably didn't work out well in the US. And coincidentally, it's the first time in the history of the US that the Carter Center is observing election there.
It'll be interesting to see the report. It will be interesting to see their report.
They would come to Guyana and say, well, I don't want to be too critical and call even the observers out. But, you know, elections and democracy are always going to be imperfect. And sometimes losing would have a certain frustration about it. And when people do a set of things, other people feel that it shouldn't be done. But then when it hits their big toe, they behave in exactly the same way and even worse. I would like to tell Donald Trump now, go and file an elections petition. Let Biden, at this stage, you have to tell him, let the law take its course, as we are doing here in Guyana. You've given it a fight, you've lost, whatever it is. The trouble, however, is that sometimes he's going to create huger problems still. They might have to literally hoist him out of the western wing and throw him through the window. You understand? We in Guyana, APNU AFC, always said we got to wait until the final declaration is made. Remember that. We had indicated.
Yes, and Mr. Granger consistently said, Mr. Granger, His Excellency President Granger consistently said he will abide by the declaration made by GCOM. Yes. Trump is saying the opposite. He said, I don't have time for that. As a matter of fact, Biden's team came out yesterday and said that they are capable, the federal government is capable of removing squatters in the White House. Incredible. Incredible.
No, that is no point of it. It is laughable. Very laughable. I understand countries in the European Union are warning him, get on the place, you know.
It has 2020 has been 2020 has been an extraordinary year in so many regards. We have to add to 2020 this Belgium cocaine shipment, the largest cocaine shipment in the history of cocaine shipments internationally and out of this country. 11.5 tons of cocaine was shipped and seized in Antwerp, Belgium. Minister Ramjattan, we haven't seen anything close to this under your tenure as Minister of Public Security in this country over the last 5 years. Your thoughts? And then Councillor Arnold Sukhraj.
Well, that is a very important development, Sharon. Very important development. And that is occurring simply because there is massive, massive interference. And I am learning more and more about it, of politicos into these enforcement agencies. When we got into that position in 2015, and that is why we solved the piracy situation in Berbice, Quarantine especially, and we solved a number of other scenarios that was affecting law enforcement. But now, all that we have set up, the KANU that we have set up, the NANA, National
Yes.
Narcotics Agency.
Right, Narcotics Agency and the authority and all of that, under I forgot the brigadier.
Actually. Yeah.
Actually, right. All of that being tumbled over, dismantled, and there is a reassembling of people who have, very little credibility. And also, by the way, I now understand, and I will ask the question in Parliament, how many KANU officers that were trained, some of them in America, by the Americans and by the British, have been literally ousted out from the KANU. And today you have now the big boys, the narco gangsters. They could
and
now...
Mr. Ramjattan, after that the scrap metal department that used to be under the Ministry of Business was recently disbanded as well. So it is the minister, whoever, making the decisions.
Well, all of that shows that there will be conspiracy at the highest of the places. Look, I want to let you know that I am well aware of the PPP's administration having a kind of an ideological outlook. That what happened if cocaine go to America? You remember Manley used to tell the Americans that if you got great demand for it over there, the supply will come from countries like Caribbean and so on. That was the ideological position of the Barrack Jagdeo and them inside of the previous PPP. I think they are all coming back right now by saying that, well, we don't have to have 5 or 6 people watching the examination of the scanner at the port of entry,
Oh,
or what we
yes.
call the WAR. Listen to me. In this case, with this 11 tons cocaine, Jagdeo is saying that the scanner was not working. And the head of KANU, the new head of KANU, is saying
Mr.
that
Singh.
the scanner was working.
Oh,
Mr.
my.
Singh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And after that as well,
That is,
Mr.
that's
Ramjattan,
correct. And
where
look,
that is concerned, yeah.
no, I was
Right
making
ahead.
the point that even if the scanner was not working, what you have to do, especially with, and we always make sure under our administration, scrap metal, if the scanner not working for one reason or the other, is that you do an inspection, a personal inspection. You go inside and you check what is in there. You can even break a sample to find out because of suspicious circumstances. Today now, we got the vice president, who is literally the man serving his term, saying that the scanner was not working. Head of KANU is saying that it was working. What really happened there? Now, under the administration of myself and Granger in this security sector, we ensured that you collaborate. The DEA officials, sometimes you can ask to be there when you got suspicious transactions. You must have in the container thing, when the scanner is not working, a KANU officer plus a policeman, and then also the Coast Guard, a collaboration of efforts so that you can't get these things happening. I understand all of that have now been halted because Jagdeo indicated we got to dismantle everything that happened under the APNU AFC. Well, I hope that the Americans too are seeing this, the Drug Enforcement Agency. And I believe that that international cooperation that we gave, almost 110% and more, we gave, it is not coming from this administration when it comes to cocaine. They believe that if you send it as a transit, you're going to get some big fella here who's a narco dealer that will bring in a whole set of US dollars. And you will have additional US dollars in the country. And who cares? Well, all of us must care because the young man in Belgium who is going to smoke the cocaine, he going to run mad, become an addict, and so on. It's only a set of people that will enrich themselves. And then when they enrich themselves, they then work closely with the politicos of Guyana, share it with them, and then can do things like asking that the GRA turn a blind eye. We have several occasions when the GRA officials, the scanner walk in, but they don't want to put it on because they want to pass something.
It's conveniently
Scanners
working.
sometimes don't work because that is what is being said by the officers in charge, because they want something for pass, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
So
yes.
all that is now coming back. And when you're talking about 11 tons of cocaine, it means that it had to take at least a couple weeks to get it first to the wharf, then onto the boat, and then into the container, and then into the boat, and so on, and then leave from here. Look, it is a shameless development under KANU, and I did everything, the international cooperation. I just have the thing here where we had with the it's called United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime. The also the International Bureau of Narcotics and Law Enforcement, you know that, INL, and then of course the Drug Enforcement Agency. And then we set up something called, from the Americans too, the Container Control Program, which was assisted by the European Unions. How we deal with these things. They train our officers how to be suspicious when you even go in the boat, how the boats are packed, the containers, which can be suspicious, where it come from, who is the supplier, what are they taking to Belgium? If it is not paddy or rice, what is it? strange things, scrap metal. Well, fine, scrap metal has always been suspicious. And here again, 11 tons passing under your nose. Let me tell you something. This Guyana administration under Jagdeo again will become a narco state again.
Wow.
You know,
Incredible. And we have to answer that already. Just before you make your submission, Arnold, the fact that we're learning that at the Chedijagan International Airport, they have been sending home the special constables there, and they are in preference for a private security firm, which is interesting. Very interesting developments. And I'm also told that it may be that somebody on the board there has a special interest in this private security firm. Councillor Sukhraj.
That is correct. That is so correct. That is so correct. And that is what I'm saying. The dismantling of all the law enforcement scrutineers, not only of the suspects of the crime, but also on the other scrutineers. So they're watching the Kanu people watching the police watching the Kanu, the Coast Guard also having a look, and so on. The law enforcement of GRA watching, 4 or 5 bodies watching. I would like to see a commission of inquiry into this 11 tons of cocaine and as to what transpired there, and especially whose scrap metal it was. You're going to find it will be a friend of this PPP administration. You bet it is going to be a big, that is where the finding will go to show. And that is what is going to happen at our airports. That is going to happen also at the Chedijagan International Airport and the Korea.
Yeah, Eugene Korea. Yeah.
Yeah, it will be lapsed deliberately. It will be relaxed deliberately. And gold will find its way back out of the country, and that same cocaine coming in.
Yeah.
One of the big things I must tell you too, Sharon, is also what we did as a master plan strategy in association with the Drug Enforcement Agency was also at the border with Venezuela and Brazil and so on, to ensure that we tighten up there, to ensure that they don't come in the first place. This cocaine had to come in via our borders. Then from that border area, come through the Essequibo River generally, or through the Atlantic Ocean.
But remember, you have planes falling out of the sky with cocaine.
And
various airstrips.
Yeah. Yes, that is so true. Well, there you have it. And,
well, you know, Sherwood, like Mr. Ramjattan said, we've seen the dismantling of all these oversight agencies. And if you can remember, since the administration took over, this is the second bus making concern. And we had, and if you remember from the first one, the excuse was, look, the container transshipped via another port. Here we are seeing in this thing, even at the early stage, the head of Kanu is saying that, look, this container transshipped through Guadeloupe. So right away you were seeing the blame shifted. That, look, this thing is not really from Guyana. It's somewhere through transshipment that this thing is happening, right? Mm-hmm. So you're seeing it. You're seeing the pattern already. 2 cases that busted in Belgium. You're saying that, look, the container transshipped. So you're right away removing blame that, look, this thing never originated from Guyana. Lo and behold, all these international agencies tracked it from Guyana. And people must remember, we have the DEA in Guyana that came courtesy of the coalition government, and they're doing their work. So they must know when they say that, look, this thing originated from Guyana, we've tracked this thing from here right through. They must know.
Yes, and look, the international cooperation that we have managed to work into to create that very solid bar. I hope that it remains there. I know for a fact, however, that some of these politicos in the PPP don't want it that way. And so we're going to have, this is the hugest bust, I understand, even internationally, 11 tons of
Yes.
cocaine.
Yes. 11.5.
11.5 tons of cocaine worth billions US dollars.
I mean, when you look at the value, and mind you, that's not a street value. That's just the raw value they place on it. It's over 65% of the national budget in Guyana. So that alone tells you the type of monies involved and who these players are. It could never be a small man. People with substantial capital to invest in something like this.
But Arnold, I want to pick you up on that, and Mr. Ramjattan, on a slightly different tenor. You have the case where you have people who are found with 3 grams of cannabis, marijuana, ganja, and you're facing almost 3 years instantaneously. And the police still picking up and questioning people on this 11.5 tons of cocaine bust and releasing. You have the police picking up, quote unquote, political people, political activists, politicians, and holding them for 72 hours and more without a charge. And for 11.5 tons of cocaine, you have suspects waltzing in and out of the police station on their own whims and fancies. What kind of country are we running here under these fraudulent PPPC administration?
Well, if I may to take it first, it just goes to show the attitude. It is a completely different thing from what. Let me tell you this, and you were there in my ministry too, Sherrod. I had instructed at an executive level that the young man, especially under 18, who is found with a small amount of marijuana, you shouldn't even bother to prosecute them. All the fancy statement taken and so on. As a policeman, you should, because we wanted to pass that law, but because of all the elections.
And we started to pilot the legislation. It's important for the public to know that. We started the process of piloting the legislation.
That's correct. That's correct. And I indicated to very many, and the Kanu, and also, and they agreed. They said, yes, Mr. Minister, because our jails are getting filled up. And we got to find meals, 3 square meals for them, place to shelter and all kinds of things for these youngsters. And when we find also that the research was done, they come out of the prisons far more hardened. And so it is a graduation school for them. So don't bother put them in there. They get caught with a joint, send them home, warn them that parents must come with them 2-3 weeks, 4-5 weeks to the police station. And it was working. But we see that that has gone into now all them little small boys getting hold up. And now these big fellas who carrying tons and tons, they're being released in bail, Now this is, it's really, really going to show bad signs of what is to come under this PPP administration. They loved those narco dealers. As a matter of fact, some of them were saying that we were helping the PPP in law enforcement. Remember when you had the terrible days of so much killings and all of that? It might all come back because you know it's 11 tons of cocaine, billions of dollars. And one of the first thing that these fellas, when they make their profits on this kind of a transaction, is they bring in guns, big guns they bring in to ensure their security and all of that. I am glad that it was held in Belgium. I am glad that the international cooperation might have worked out. That is at the outside of Guyana level. But of course, it still means that if we could put this thing out there, they got other tonnages coming afterwards. And I hope that the international players have their eyes on Guyana.
Councillor Sukhraj, you were going to make an intervention?
No.
Great.
Right.
Folks, it would seem that since the fraudulent PPP government came to office August 2nd, somebody has sprinkled what they call confusion powder over this administration. They have nothing to show for the last 100 days, and everything seems to be going wrong. We've spoken before about this next issue, the issue of the fraudulent ownage Waldron being a member of the National Assembly. Documents released by Parliament showed that she renounced her citizenship on the 4th day of September. She was sworn in as an MP on the 1st, and the renunciation certificate was approved on the 8th day of September. She held the Bible, Mr. Ramjattan, in her hands, and she lied to this nation. What are your thoughts on these developments?
Well, I have already written on it, and I think it has been sent out as a press statement by the APNU AFC that she ought to resign. This is but, a very sordid thing that she has done when on the day that you got your renunciation letter, it was almost 1 week after you swore in. And then to lie to the members of the public, to lie to the Parliament, the highest lawmaking branch of government, by stating that you on the 1st of September were not a dual citizen, and being a lawyer, knowing very well all this stupendous impact that dual citizen issue brought to this country, and still you want to lie, and then you get Bharat Jagdev and Irfan Ali to lie behind you. The lady apparently applied on the 4th of September, 4 days after she became a parliamentarian. And then she was given it in very quick time by this United States embassy, very quick.
Yes.
Because normally it takes weeks to get it. Yeah, it was expedited because on the 7th day of September, she got the renunciation certificate. So it only took 3 days. Our law, however, is what applies. It's not what law in America applies. Because the American ambassador then came out with some statement, or a consular officer come out with a statement that although you get it, the certificate got a date there, it is backdated to the date when you swear to renounce. Well, we now understand that you swear to renounce on the 4th.
Yeah.
And the 1st of September, she was sworn in as a parliamentarian. The thing is a wholly wicked piece of lying. It reminds me of Trump, always talking lie. And then you get aiding and abetting that lie is Bharat Jagdev saying that the girl got the thing and there is no need for her to resign and all of that. Well, look, let me tell you something. Jagdev, with all we know about him, he can go and lie again about these issues. He was the one that was saying today that the scanner wasn't working. He's the one that said that the girl swearing
he put on
the 1st of September. Yes. So, look, I don't know how to regard it because she's a member of the legal profession like I am, and I happen to know her for some time too. But you don't do this thing, man. You behave honest in relation to an issue that makes you an entrant into the legislative branch of the government. It is a serious issue. It has led to a lot of other people resigning and then coming back after they do the renunciation. Why couldn't you do that? Why could you tell and get good legal advice? And all you had to do is that after you get it, then you probably could have sworn the girl in after that, after the 7th of September, and make her a minister if you wanted. Why you wanted now to go lie to Parliament? You know why? Because you mock the Parliament. You mock the rule of law. And you feel as arrogant as Trump felt that you could do anything in this country. That is the Bharat Jagdev that I've been warning about. But a lot of people didn't want to hear me. They prefer to.
But I want to come to that just now. I want to come to another issue on that same point. Councillor Sukhraj, any comments there?
I mean, look, this is the type of administration we've seen in the past, and we see a replay
Wicked.
of it again. I mean, yeah, look, it's all the old guards come back again. The latest one, Ashley Singh, came back, still charges pending against him for fraud and so on, but swearing again as Minister of Finance. So
Well, Arnold, as I put it, they were true to the used tire policies. They bring back a set of old tires. They bring back Ashley. They bring back Berry. They bring back Robert Pesson. They bring back Jennifer Westford. A whole set of all used tires.
Shake Bash come back at
Shake Bash come back. Huh? The other one at the head ministry.
See Brassington come back as well too.
Brassington, as I said, all used tires. Gail come back.
And Sharon Das
Well,
is back too, yeah.
This is atrocious kind of governance, and whilst they come back too, like Anil Nandalal come back as Attorney General, that fella ain't got no shame. He used to tell the Barbicians all kind of lies about Ramjattan got a big mansion in New York and $100 million in some account and all kind of thing. But he was charged with stealing law books. And the magistrate, after hearing all the evidence for the prosecution, ruled that that fella got to present a defense because there is sufficient evidence for a prima facie case, meaning that it will now go towards a conviction. And you got to file your defense now or get your witnesses. Call up Donald Ramotar. Let me hear from Donald Ramotar if Donald Ramotar indeed give you them books that. Donald didn't want to come and testify as far as I know. He didn't want to go in the witness box to say that it is a lie and so on. He carried the matter to the High Court. The High Court threw it out. He carried the matter now to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal threw it out. And you know what he do? He then apply, but then withdraw the application to the CCJ, and he go, and I don't know what he talked to the Director of Public Prosecutions, but he get the Public Prosecutions Director to pull way back the charge. That is not the rule of law. That is executive lawlessness. That is criminal conduct.
Without any reason offering to the public. And this is a matter of public interest.
And that is what they've done. And, you know, to go and say that how we are criminals and all kind of thing, when we were questioning thoroughly dead people voting, people who are on the list that were overseas and all of that thing, as if we don't have a right. But, you know, this thing got karma about it, you know, man. And,
yes.
I am glad.
Oh, yes.
You know, yes, it got. And I believe in that. In any event, these are the quality of the people that have gone straight back into governance. And they're not going to do a good job. We're going to see the narcotics climbing. We're going to see lying being made part of their character. Because the biggest liar, as I have always said, is Bharat Jagdeo. I remember Freddie Kissoon calling him a ideological racist. And I was defending Freddie's right to say that. I see that a lot of things are happening now that indeed are making them, you know, just behave ideologically racial too. And by the way, having said all that I have said on the issue about their ideological racism and their ethnicization of the economy, how they want to put all the oil money on sugar and sugar, I want the Barbicians to understand that sugar really does not have a future. You cannot be producing 26 cents a pound for sugar, and then you sell it on the international market for 13 cents. It's 13 cents you're giving away, people. And the generation to come do not want to cut canes. You go and talk to the Albion people. You go and talk to the Skeldon people. None of them want to do that hard work anymore. And our lands are not the type of lands that you can mechanize. You go and you watch at Palmyra there, the cane lands, they got to be on beds and all kinds of things. But he has now brought back a fella that they had at the flour mill called Sis Singh. Bart ended up calling the man from the bowl.
He had issues with flour.
That's right. And Barrett ended up calling him Thunderbolt, giving him a false name. Now he is there now to govern the sugar sector. Propaganda, I want to remind the PDP, is not what brings profits. It is correct policy making. And you've got to right-size sugar. Otherwise, that same oil money that we supposed to spend on Guyanese equally will be spent disproportionately on sugar, because sugar will be given away. Some people who will be selling it to 13 cents per pound. It is not the right thing to do. But I see they're saying that they're going to open this, they're going to open that. To rehabilitate the Skeldon factory will take another $100 million US. To rehabilitate the other factory that we closed at Rosal, that will take millions of US dollars. To retrain a whole set of labor force, it is going to take so much money. It will be money going down the drain. Take all those hundreds of millions of dollars and those same children of Berbice, train them in certain specialized fields that they could get the employment for the next generation rather than cotton cane. That is what we were doing. You had to right-size sugar. Now they're bringing it back, and it will be making one hell of a loss. But that is Go ahead.
And I hope our Barbician brothers and sisters understand this, because similarly to all of these old used tires and people that they're bringing back, like the Acne Sings of this world, they're bringing back a certain used old tire policy. And one of their own commentators mentioned the idea of them bringing back the Amila Falls project when cheaper electricity can be produced using solar now. Technology has overtaken the Amila Falls project, and they're still hustling to bring that back too. But Mr. Ramjattan, you called Jagdeo from the inception. You called him and you know him, as you like to say, being in the belly, having been in the belly of the beast. Kaicher News this morning wrote a scathing column through Peeping Tom on Mr. Jagdeo. I want to quote a part of it and then get your responses, because they brought in Skeldon. They said that a part of the article, part of the column, the Peeping Tom column reads, yesterday, Vice President Jagdeo called a press conference. He dealt with issues which he ought not to be addressing. He should not be making any pronouncements in relation on the question of the renouncement of dual citizen of Minister of Tourism. That is a matter that should have been dealt with by the Attorney General. Jagdeo should not be calling any press conference. Even if he has the approval of the President to do so, it makes the President appear poor in the eyes of the public. Jagdeo is believed to have been involved in the negotiations which concluded with the approval of the permit for the Payara Field Development Plan. This was a major disappointment, and the outcome represents a major disappointment as well. Even more frightening is the possibility that Jagdeo may have a role to play in the Gas to Shore project. This is a major infrastructural initiative which should be kept far from him. He is once again conjuring over-bloated expectations that implementation can start this year and the project completed within 3 years. He must be dreaming like how he was in relation to the behemoth which was built under his watch, the Skeldon Sugar Factory. The Skeldon Sugar Factory was a disaster from the moment it was conceived under Jagdeo. It was chiefly responsible for the closure of the Skeldon factory and the bankrupting of the private farmers in the area, the same farmers which the Minister of Agriculture is now trying to woo to return to the sugar fields or to the land. Reactions?
Well, that is so accurate. Go ahead, Arnold.
Sure, Peeping Tom is so accurate.
And this is the news.
Yeah, I know. I looked at that press conference yesterday, and you wonder who is the real president of Guyana, because if you recall about a week ago or so, the real should-be president Irfan Ali was saying, look, where local government election and so is concerned,
but I was coming to that, Councillor. Don't preempt us.
There comes Jagdeo yesterday's press conference. Look, we're going to put in the funding in next year budget. We're going to have local government elections.
He's overruling the president.
So you wonder who really is the president? You know, and you're talking about these oil blocks and thing. I recall about 2 or 3 days ago, Christopher Ram in the Kaichor News was saying that look, even Christopher Ram and what's his name, economist Gaskin, I think it was right.
Mhm. Well,
Was
I don't
saying
know if
look,
you're asking as an economist
Donald
really, truly, but
Ramatar and Robert Prasad should be brought before the court for the same Kanji and Kaichor oil block. And then
correct.
looking at the press conference yesterday, Jack, he was like, nothing wrong was done in giving out the blocks and everything. So you seeing the hypocrisy all around.
But if nothing
No,
is
and it's so
wrong,
true.
how come they don't have a block?
That's right. Them
How come you
fellas
don't have
got
a
to get a
block?
piece of the pie. They need a piece of the pie. And, you know, Donald, too, he tried to be sanctimonious about a number of things. I remember telling him that, you know, you are dealing with, in the 2015 elections, with Cambridge Analytica, the same setup that sends Facebook messages and profile you and how he profiled. And he said, no, he never do that. Today, the whistleblower from Cambridge Analytica says that Donald Ramutar paid them 420,000 US dollars to profile Guyanese, especially East Indians who were, in a sense, going one way, going away from the PPP, to bring them back home by sending personalized ads, telling them a whole set of nonsense that especially black people can't run country and so on. So this is the kind of sanctimoniousness you get from these guys. And when I then indicated to him, but look, Brittany Kaiser from England is saying that you paid 420,000 US dollars. What you got to say about that? The man not talk nothing now. Donald out of the way. But coming back to what Peeping Tom is saying, that is important for us, and it's important for this younger generation like yourself and also Arnold. Look, a lot of people feel that sometimes when the press hit us hard, that it is doing a bad thing. But the surest insurance for freedom and democracy is a vibrant press. And yes, we got smitten sometimes, but then it's because the press has every right to go after us. And I agree with that. We cannot live in a democratic country unless we get the press doing that. And I am glad that Kaichor News now coming around to seeing, you know, what the bad things are happening, and also re-educating, especially the Barbicians, that the man who brought sugar to the knees is Bharat Jagdeo with that sugar factory. The biggest expenditure of monies, over 200 million US dollars, he spent on that one project, and we hardly managed to get any sugar there. He is the one that told people to recultivate their lands into sugarcane. And the people to do that had to run to the banks, hundreds and hundreds of sugarcane farmers, and they took out big loans. At that time, the rate, I think, was 33% interest and all kind of big interest. And they bankrupted so many because the thing didn't work. The Chinese people that put it up apparently didn't know what they were putting up. And that is what caused that thing. And he got the gall today to lie to the Guyanese people to say that the sugar sector fell because of this PAPNU AFC government. Well, as soon as we went in there, you know, Sharon, I have constantly repeated this. $1 billion we had to bail out sugar. Gaisuko was supposed to bring in money to the treasury. We had to take money out of the treasury and give Gaisuko $1 billion for 6 months because we wanted to save it. But we couldn't hold on because how long are you going to be bailing out sugar like that? And especially when all the experts are saying that the price for sugar in the international market is far less than what we will be producing for. So we did the correct thing. And a lot of people vexed with us. But the people you vex for, it should be the PPP. Donna Ramatar was a Gaisuko director for years and years and years. What did they do? They borrowed 81 million euros and put it into sugar. Well, where did all the money go? From 2004 to 2014. But they now put Sis Narayan Singh there to let Sis Narayan bring it out. Bargain Chase Narayan Singh. You watch it.
Flower boy, sis.
So Cameron is absolutely right, Sherrod, where sugar is concerned, because when you look at the PPP administration, is saying that, look, sugar got a future in them thing. You put back the same managers at Skeldon and so who presided over the demise, you bring them back as managers to run the thing again. And Barbicians need to understand, the administration is fighting up that sugar got this future and so. And here it is, we fired the man who know about sugar, and that is the guy from Nisil, Colvis Vento.
Colvin Hill.
Right?
Yeah.
Let the people go and research. He was the guy who turned around the Jamaican sugar industry and bring it back to profitability. And he was the guy and that is the guy that know how to turn around the thing. And you fire the man, and you bring back the same old people who presided over the demise. So clearly sugar is going nowhere.
Great, Councillor. My final question, as we wind down the program time, is something you mentioned early on, Councillor Sukhraj. Again, coming back to the whole notion that there seems to be some confusion, a lot of confusion, Paula, perhaps 11.5 tons of it sprinkled over this government. Confusion left, right, and center. You did mention that Anil Nandalal, fraudulent Attorney General, and the President himself, Mr. Infantali, said that we cannot have local government elections until certain things are fixed. But then the Grandmaster, quote unquote, come and said we will have local government elections. I don't care what these guys saying. Tells us that there's confusion, right? That added to the fact that over the past couple of days, we saw Georgetown, the national capital city, flooded by rainfalls. It brings back to us the importance of local government organs, and also lots of areas on the coast. The East Coast, for instance, were flooded. I want to quote a bit of what former Minister of Public Infrastructure, now Public Works, Mr. David Patterson, the Honorable, said on Facebook. He said, to the folks that throw away their sandbags and long boots, as you bailing out the water out of your living rooms, I bet you wishing the coalition was still in office. Admit it. For the last couple of years, you got used to getting a good night's sleep when it rained, snuggling up next to your partner, fully confident that the next morning your house would not be flooded. Now that the government has changed, you are missing these little things. Oh well, it's back to the days of having to put your furniture on drink boxes as soon as the rain falls. Your days of sleeping in the rain are over. Your thoughts?
Yeah.
On the importance of LGE.
I want to tell you, Sharon, that is beautifully putting it. We are coming back to all those old times that we tried to get rid of. The drainage and irrigation systems in Georgetown were working beautifully. The canals were being dug out, and drainage was going very well. The cocas were rebuilt. But I just want to add this. Only this afternoon, prior to our talking here, I spoke to some Barbicians, and they're telling me that even at the New Amsterdam Hospital, the theaters are not working. Nurses at the WIM Health Center are quarreling with the state of dereliction that the WIM Health Center is now in. So I've asked those guys to send me some photographs. The doctors now cannot get in Berbice to talk to the RHO, a new RHO that I think replaced Javon Stevens. That's the kind of thing that is happening in Berbice. And then there is discrimination of that money, the $25,000 that was given for the
The
COVID
COVID. Yeah.
aid. Yes, they got some, and it's being distributed only by PPP activists. And a lot of APNU AFC supporters are not getting it. But they are also double dipping when it comes to PPPIs. Like they got about 10 or so, plenty houses in Berbice today are vacant because the family members gone overseas and so on. But they left the key with a family member. One of the family members living opposite the street, he collect the money today. Tomorrow when they go to the next side of the street, he then go over to that house and he's collecting. And we got the names of some of the people that are double dipping. I am urging that this kind of thing is not going to go down well when you are going to literally be corrupt in the distribution of monies, and especially by the PPP activist alone up there. We will be calling for what is called an electronic centerfold, an electronic set of names as to who and who get how much money. And we're going to test it as against what is on the ground. A lot of also the APNU AFC people, both East Indians and also Afro-Guyanese, are not getting. And when they've gone to work and the people come and share, when they go next day to go and collect the monies or go after these activists, they say, well, we don't share there, you're not getting any. That is leaving a sour taste in a lot of people's mouth. And that is not going to go down very well. It can even provoke people into action. I've been talking to some of them. I'll give me the names. I will try as my best to get the monies for you by talking to some of these people that are doing the distribution. But things obviously are not well in this land, and especially Berbice.
Great.
Sherrod, you mentioned we were talking about the local government just now. And, as a council in Region 4, one of the things we've noticed, and I want to put the Berbicians on notice as well, that through the RDCs, the NDCs are provided with a $5 million subvention. But what the reports we're getting, and this is not reports from a coalition councillor on the NDC, these are reports from PPP councillors on the NDC, that the Minister of Local Government is directing directly to those NDC chair and vice chair what the money must be used for and what project they must do. Only 2 nights ago, I was in Mahaico at one of the NDC meetings, and they have received a 2.5 million disbursement as out of their 5 million. And one of the things the chair said is that the minister directed that, look, the 2.5 million must be spent on street lights. And when you listen to their meeting, when I sat in their meeting, the amount of things that are wrong in the community, bridges, the amount of bridges that boards are missing, and so where the money can be used, the minister is directing that, look, you must put street light, you must put crusher run in this road. One of the issues came up, and this is where we gone back to we're going back to substandard work, is that you're directing these people to use the money to use it, buy crusher run and put on the road. And one of the things, I must commend the chair at the Unity NDC for it. He recognized that, look, putting crusher run in this street is a waste of taxpayers' money because they don't have money to do the loom for the foundation of the road. So put in thing, and he refused. And a lot of these NDCs, we're getting reports now, are refusing the instructions that is coming from the minister's office and the minister directly, what the money must be used for. And I think that is one of the reasons why we hear yesterday, Mara Jagdeo said that, look, we're ready for local government election. We're going to finance it, and we're going to have it. It's because they are trying to bypass the RDCs now and try to deal directly with these NDCs, especially in their stronghold like Mahaico and Monrepo and all these areas. That, look, these are the projects we want you to do. We are giving the money. You can do this project and not what the council wants to do that will benefit the entire community. So that is what we're going back to. And I want to put the people on Berbice on notice to
Great.
check these things because this is what is happening.
Well,
Berbice, you are
that is part
noticed.
of the policy. That is the part of the policy of control freakism. They do not want proper governance. It was always the case with Jack Dale. Once he's around, you're going to have these problems. And he is of, the view that what he says is law. And that is the trouble. You're going to get now these ministers directing how the local authorities must be run. If the people get a priority to go make a playground and a little pavilion, they will say, no, go and do this. And that was not the basis for local governance. Local governance is to give the people autonomy for purposes of decision making as to what is a priority for them. Whereas it is now being taken away. Central government still wants to tell local authorities, officials what to do. That is bad governance. That is executive lawlessness coming down again. But we're going to have that because, as I said, you got a control freak and a set of control freaks up there. And it is not going to go nice at all. Local government elections, I cannot understand how one faction of the PPP under Jagdeo is saying find the monies, and under Nigel Dharamlal, is it?
Yes.
The Minister for Local Government, they're saying that they wouldn't have it, the local government elections. What nonsense. Right hand and no left hand a do. That is the kind of governance you got. But then Jagdeo would want to outdo everybody and say, well, I am the law. We're going to get the money next year and we're going to run the local government elections. Well, I hope to God he does it because next year is when you got to hold local government elections.
Well, I don't know how they can get the money because the thing was held up in Belgium. Folks, that's going to have to be the last word for this evening. We're out of program time. It was a privilege having Mr. Kemraj Ramjattan, Member of Parliament and leader of the Alliance for Change, and also the one and only Councillor Arnold Sukhraj, Region 4, RDC. Guys, thanks for joining us. Folks in Berbice, you're on notice. You've heard it here. Same time next week, same place. We're on the move in Berbice. Alliance on the move. Thanks for joining.